Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga show, the prediction show Thursday night special ahead of match day 13 in the Bundesliga season. As you can see, I'm joined once again by Peter. How are you doing over there?
Doing well. It seems like forever ago that we did that show, that impromptu show in a McDonald's somewhere in so, yeah, apologies for the late start this evening. I accidentally got the link to the fantasy show studio instead. But the good news is that the fantasy show returns tomorrow with our regular actors Rory and Rune. So I'm sure everybody's looking forward to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Peter. Yeah. But obviously, we're here for match day 13, aren't we, in the Bundesliga season? So don't forget to comment on your predictions and let us know what you guys think as well. Don't forget to do that because we always like to get your feedback as well of what you think of the upcoming match days, predictions and games and events. So yeah, without further ado, let's kick off. And it's a good game on Friday night, isn't it? Obviously, not too far from you, Peter, in Stuttgart. They host Union Berlin, who are kind of sliding down the table a little bit at the wrong time, aren't they? Obviously, Stuttgart got that really good win over Regensburg, a team that never seemed to score goals, Regensburg. Comfortable win on Tuesday night. But obviously, this is a short turnover, isn't it? The game, only 3 days, 2.5 days rest, really, you could say, ahead of this game against Stuttgart, against Union. But obviously, the home advantage will stand them in good stead in this match. Union, the issue with them, they just don't create chances, really. Obviously, they had an XG of about 1.2 last week, but I think 0.8 or 0.9 came from that one chance, which was obviously converted by Jong. But I just worry about their chance creation, really, at times. Our boy Vertessen, who started the season really well, is just not built on that at all. Hollerbach obviously got a fantastic assist last week, didn't he? But he's still not really getting enough goals by my liking. Stuttgart still without Undav, still without Leveling and the like, so that they are a little bit short on the ground. Obviously, as I say, they did play just a couple of days ago, and the fixtures are really piling up for them as well with Champions League action and the likes. As a result, I'm actually going to go for a potentially shock result here. I'm going to go for a draw. I think this is going to be a 1-1 draw. I just feel as though Stuttgart have struggled in these kind of games this season. We saw them draw against Hoffenheim, who they were expected to beat. They struggled to beat Kiel, only 2-1 as well. Obviously, they did beat Bochum last time out, but let's be honest, who doesn't beat Bochum these days? So I am going to go for a 1-1 here, which might shock people. Peter, are you on the same lines as me here?
Well, you brought up the fatigue factor, and I do believe that should be good for one Union goal. I don't necessarily know who's going to score it. Probably Hollerbach. I think shouldn't be anything for Rory and the VfB fans to worry about here. I think Milo should be fit in time for the game, so I will go for a 2-1 victory in Bad Cannstatt on Friday night.
Interesting. Yeah, the first disagreement, Peter, of the weekend. So go on, I'll let you lead on the VfL against St. Pauli.
Well, St. Pauli finally actually woke up to score 3 goals last week, but unfortunately Leverkusen are back in the flow with 4 wins on the trot, including that massive win over Bayern in the Pokal. Hard to see how this one remains competitive, really. I mean, of course, Paddy Schick is wavering, so we may see Martin Terrier get the start alone up top as in the 4-2-3-1. Nathan Tella could also be pushed up top there, so I'm not entirely sure. But I guess I'm just going to go with the VXF to get their 5th consecutive victory on the spin here, and I'll go for 3-0 for Leverkusen.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a game where you would fully imagine the Bayern to clock up another win. Like, obviously, a lot of people question, were they back after the good start? And I think the win against Bayern obviously confirmed that. I mean, some people would say, okay, they were down to 10 men, but I still feel as though it was a highly professional performance against a Bayern team who I actually thought played well, to be honest, despite being down to 10 men. It was a very tactical game, I felt, and obviously Leverkusen, as they have done very often against Bayern Munich under Xabi Alonso, they were able to nick the win there towards the end of the game and hold out quite comfortably. So, yeah, few will be giving the Hamburgers much of a chance in this game. I totally agree with you, Peter, that obviously the loss of Paddy Schick will be a blow, and obviously Boniface is also out. So they are going to be missing a recognised striker in this game. But we know that Xabi loves to be flexible with his systems. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see Terrier potentially line up there, or even play a false nine with the likes of Wirtz. Or it would be interesting to see what they do with that. Or Nathan Teller as well could potentially start after a good cameo appearance against Bayern. I'm going to go for 3-1 because I don't think Leverkusen have kept that many clean sheets. Although I will say they have improved defensively a little bit, definitely the last 4 games, but still, last week they conceded against Union, which would have been a bit disappointing, really. So I'm going to go for the away side to get a goal here, but I still think a comfortable home win for the Werkself. So, yeah, moving on to another game where the home side is going to be pretty hot favourite, really. FC Bayern Munich against Heidenheim. Well, what can you say? Obviously, Bayern are really starting to get down to the bare bones a little bit, aren't they? Obviously, the fact that Harry Kane should be missing from this one as well, I believe. So, you know, for all the quality Bayern have, they do rely very heavily on Harry to get the goals. And we saw that once again. Obviously, they've only managed to score 1 goal in about, 1.5 games of football since he got that injury against Dortmund last weekend. And while they've not played badly in either of those games, I didn't feel as though they really hit top gear as such, and especially going forward. But Heidenheim represents a much easier task than Borussia Dortmund away and Leverkusen. And you would imagine them to get over the line. But I think this is an interesting test because it's a game where, Company will go and say to some of his fringe players, go out there and get a goal for me. Because I can't remember the last time Kingsley Coman scored a goal. Sané has just not been getting goals at all this season either. Obviously, he was hooked very early on after that Manuel Neuer red card the other night. I still think Bayern will get the win simply because I just think Heidenheim are running on nothing at the minute, to be honest. They were so poor against Frankfurt last week. And I feel as though it's going to be a 3-0 win for the Bayern. What do you think, Peter?
Oh, absolutely. This one has a reaction match written all over it. I think the safest bet of the weekend is that my Bully News colleague, Rune Sheroff, will write we wanted to show a reaction post-match. Kane's absence doesn't really trouble me because I think Pavlovic is fit enough to return to the starting 11, and that obviously makes a huge difference. You could put Gnabry up there as striker. Müller could start as the striker. Tell can also start as the lone striker as well. So let's not forget, though, of course, Heidenheim, they have scored 9 goals in their 3 competitive fixtures against Bayern, including the upset victory over Thomas Tuchel's Bayern. That was at the Voigt Arena there in the Aalbogen. But you know what? I think if memory serves correctly, all 3 goal scorers from that match, Tim Kleindienst, Jan-Niklas Beste, and the most important one of all, Kevin Sessa, have moved on to greener pastures. So, Heidenheim, as you put it, I think you put it quite well. They really are running on nothing. So, yeah, we have another match, I think, that's it's not going to be very competitive. We'll get to some more competitive fixtures a little bit later on. I would say that in the case of Bayern, the most interesting piece of news, I'm sure you were happy to hear about this, Mark, was the strategic partnership they signed with Unterhaching. which means, what does that mean? What
hacking. That should be their theme tune of the partnership, just like a kind of jingle sound, like Yeah, one of the great German. If you've never heard that, guys, check out the Unterhaching. Obviously, if you watched our vlog, you will have heard it. But if you've not, then check out on YouTube E-Morg Hacking. Yeah, the fantastic hymn, as they say over here in Germany, of Spielvereinigung Unterhaching. You've got to check that one out, guys. But go on, Peter. We've yet to get a tip from you. 3-0, 3-1.
Oh, 4-0.
4-0.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. It's getting tough in that part of Schwabia, isn't it? That's for sure. So, yeah, let's move on to another game. I mean, many people would have this down as 4 home bankers, really, including Stuttgart, even though I've not gone for Stuttgart, but a lot of people will have them on the coupons this weekend, I would imagine. And talking of bankers, a lot of people will think Frankfurt should have enough to beat my Bavarian Schwabians FC Augsburg. But obviously, both of these teams had very interesting nights last night, didn't they? I mean, obviously, Frankfurt were absolutely thrashed against Leipzig, and a lot of people didn't see that coming. I mean, it has to be beared in mind that obviously, they were fantastic, Leipzig. I thought the first goal from Šeško was world class, really. It was an amazing goal. But Frankfurt couldn't get a foothold in the game, really. Apart from a few shots from distance, they didn't really get many clear-cut chances and were well beaten and obviously out of the Pokal now, which nobody really saw happening against an off-form Leipzig side. As for Augsburg, they had a pretty crazy game in York, just a few kilometres from where you live, Peter, didn't they? I mean, what a match that was. It looked as though they were down and out until the 123rd minute before Vargas obviously leveled up, and then they went on to win on penalties to break the hearts of your brethren, Peter. But yeah, obviously that was a gutter for them. But for Augsburg, they're into the last 8 of the Pokal now, and that's a decent run for them. But for this particular game, it's going to be tough. I mean, they're another team that will run themselves into the ground there, won't they? Obviously, a really hard game there in Karlsruhe. So as a result, I think Frankfurt will have enough to bounce back in this one. I think, Marmoush was quiet against Leipzig, as was Ekitike, who was really frustrated at times in that match. But I think they'll get back to the form and they'll get a relatively comfortable 3-1 home win here. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, we'll sync up exactly there. It's... First of all, be careful about calling the KSC my brethren. That is my father's club, and it's Kaiserslautern Karlsruhe Derby weekend. So
true, very true.
Yeah, you have to be careful. But in any event, what happened last night in Leipzig. Oh God, what terrible tactics by Topmüller. He moved Nathaniel Brown up to the wing, and he put Rasmus Christensen on the left-hand side. And of course, that was really the cause of this all. Collins was overdue for a bad match. Of course, he had to do that because he didn't have Teata. But I see that this is a quick fix. It's an easy fix. Augsburg are the slowest starters in the league. I don't think they've scored a goal in the first 20 minutes of a match since Vargas did so against Frankfurt, maybe late last season somewhere. So they've, I have to say, this should be an easy 3-1 victory. I'm not even going to tip Augsburg to score a goal here. I'm going to go for 4-0 for Frankfurt. This is, We've got to get to some more surprise and interesting matches here. A lot of these matches kind of tip themselves.
Yeah, I do feel as though there's quite a big gap in the league this year between certain teams. The gap between top and bottom is really quite extreme this year, maybe more than in previous seasons. And I think me and Rory, when we did the tips last week, we also found there were quite a few very strong tips as well. So. Yeah, but anyway, a game that maybe isn't quite so easy to tip, and I'm going to let Peter, because I know Peter loves Bochum, and I know Peter was in Bochum actually quite recently, so I'll let you lead on this one.
Absolutely. I made the pilgrimage tief in Westen to go see the Deutsche Frauennationalmannschaft in action against Italy on Monday night, right there in the Vonovia Ruhrstadion. So unfortunately, we lost against Italy, but I enjoy Bochum. I like going to Bochum. I'm probably the only German who's glad that Bochum is still in the league this year. But, and I can do a decent Herbert Grönemeyer, Defense, whatever. This is best. Okay, Grönemeyer can't really sing. That's what he can do. Well, I was looking up some facts about this match. Bochum have actually never won at home against Bremen in 10 tries. According to today's kicker, Dieter Hecking, is actually undefeated against Bremen. But I don't think that's going to matter. What we have here going on with Bochum is we still need some sort of base tactics from Hecking, and we've not gotten that yet. Bernardo, the Brazilian, is going to be returning, whether it's a back three or a back five, so that's good news for Bochum. I imagine that Miyoshi will also start and Brzezinski will also start. I was trying to play around a little bit with the Bochum tactics earlier today because I knew Ballon was going to expect me to do that. Unfortunately, I couldn't come up with a winner, really, so I'm going to go for a 1-0 SV Werder Bremen victory here at the Ruhrstadion.
Yeah, I think obviously Bochum's last home performance was really strong when they played Leverkusen, but that's pretty much the only decent performance they put in the whole season. And I feel as though they've not really built on that at all in the games against Stuttgart and Augsburg, where they look completely toothless, to be honest, up front. I think in both of those games, they had around about 0.3, 0.4 XG, which is just not good enough at the end of the day. At home, they are better, but Werder will definitely fancy winning this game. Obviously a team who, for me, should have had more positive results than they have had in recent times. I think they were really good against Stuttgart last week, but there just seems to be a little bit of a lack of confidence closing out results from them. So as a result, I see Werder going into a comfortable 2-0 win and then Bochum pulling one back and potentially putting a little bit of pressure on towards the end. But I still see Werder holding out for a 2-1 win in this particular game. But obviously Bochum, we're really getting to the point where they need a result now, and no result is just they're going to be down by Christmas unless they can get a win within the next 3 or 4 games, to be honest. Anyway, moving on, another game which looks one-sided, really, isn't it? I mean, there's been a lot of games. I mean, obviously the fact that Holstein Kiel do have home advantage in this one might potentially tip it their way. But obviously, I mean, it's going to be freezing cold in Kiel at the minute as well. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in that part of Germany right now. It must be really cold in the shipping port of Kiel. Obviously, Leipzig, maybe if this prediction had been made on Tuesday night, it might have looked a bit different. But obviously, Leipzig did bounce back into form with some real quality football against Frankfurt. Admittedly, limited and poor Frankfurt on the night, but Leipzig did score some really good goals, and it was the two main men, Šeško and Openda, who got on the score sheet. So, and also the fact that Kiel have really shipped a lot of goals at home against better opposition as well. Let's not forget they shipped 6 against Bayern. They shipped 4 against Frankfurt as well. So teams of that caliber tend to put quite a few past them. For me, I don't know, Peter, whether you've watched the last couple of shows, but I've been slating Lewis Holtby in recent times. Why they've dropped him, Gigovic for him, I have no idea, to be honest. It's literally like rolling out the old 50-year-old from the amateur team just because he was good 10 years ago, you know what I mean? And it's like, for me, he has to be benched this week after 2 really poor performances after coming back into the team. And for me, I think Leipzig are going to catch fire here. I'm going to go for a 4-1 away win. Peter?
I'm going to go for a 5-1 win for Kiel.
What?
I'm joking. Of course.
You sounded serious for a second.
That was the idea. It's called. Kiel actually did beat Leipzig 5-1 once upon a time in the Regionalliga. I was looking that up today. Well, what can we say? I think that, that's an interesting point about Holtby. I mean, he is the captain after all. So the captain is sort of given preference. I guess he and Emre Can can both go to the retired captain's roundtable in the retirement home there at this point. And Gigovic and Nemecha can take over for things. I mean, it is Kiel. They do have the home advantage, and it is freezing cold in Schleswig-Holstein, and it gets dark up there early. And Rose's men, they weren't necessarily totally explosive against Eintracht. I think that Eintracht were gripped by this strange lethargy, and the tactics were poor, and pretty much everybody had an off match. As a matter of fact, I was looking a little bit at the overhead cam. I didn't really understand what Rosa's tactics were in the Frankfurt match. It wasn't the 4-2-2-2. It was like a castle storm. It was it was like a 4-1-1-1-3 or something. I mean, it didn't make any sense. So I think that it's possible that Leipzig will go back to some underachieving here. And I'm tempted to tip a 0-0 draw, as a matter of fact. But I'm going to go ahead with Leipzig for the narrow 1-0 victory. I think the problem with Leipzig this year, and you saw that in the desperation that Rosa was using with some of his tactics, is that you don't have Danny Olmo. Of course, you don't have Xavi Simons either, who's hurt now, but you don't have an Olmo to sort of set up the play and thread the balls into the strikers. And Nusa had a very good match, but Baumgartner doesn't work in that position. Haidara doesn't work in that position. Vermeeren doesn't work in that position. Maybe Zaberschlager could work in that position, even though he's a deep-seated midfielder. He might put him up on the second axis. But yeah, I think we've not seen the end of this Leipzig crisis just yet. I think a 1-0 narrow victory.
Yeah. And then I'm going to move on to the top spiel, and I'm going to let Peter lead on this one.
Well, Gerardo Seoane has issued a challenge to Nuri Sahin about his team's inability to perform on the road. And so we will see if Seoane's mouth gets his team motivated or ends up getting him in trouble. He's been the Swiss trainer can firmly insert his foot in his mouth at times. Interesting fact about this match, in the last 16 meetings, the two Borussen, BMG BVB, or BMG BVB, if you prefer to do it in the German sense, have actually not drawn. And I think they're going to do so here. I think we should have a good match, and I'm going to go ahead with a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, this is a tough one, because obviously BMG have been on really good home form this season, and there has been improvement, let's be honest, from Seoane's men. They've definitely been a lot better than what we've seen in the last few years. But to be honest, last week made me doubt them a little bit, because I think I tipped them quite heavily against Freiburg, and I was really underwhelmed by the performance, to be honest. I thought Plea played really poorly, so potentially we might see Sturger come back into the team for this one. Obviously, Plea is very much a form player, isn't he? Like, he has 3 or 4 really good games, then he goes missing for 5 or 6 games, So maybe he's turned now onto one of his bad streaks. So, if Seoane is aware of that, he might potentially bring in Sturger for this one. And I think it'd be a good game to bring the great man back as well, because I feel as though he could do some damage against, in the angles against this Borussia Dortmund side. Dortmund have improved, though, let's be honest. They've also had a really good return since the last international break. I felt they were quite unlucky not to beat Bayern last week. I think it was a professional performance, a high-quality performance. They managed to keep the Bayern to relatively few chances until the last probably 10 minutes or so. But at the same time, they don't win away from home in the league, do they? And obviously, they've still not done that so far this season. Gladbach do have a good record against Dortmund at home as well. And I feel as though I'm also going to go for a 2-2 draw. We sync up on this one, Peter. So, let's move on to the Sunday games. And it's the battle of the two informed sides, isn't it? VfL Wolfsburg won 3 in a row, actually 4 in a row if you include last night's Hoffenheim result in the Cup. And Mainz, who have also won 3 in a row too, with 3 really impressive performances. So this is two sides who are basically turning the seasons around. Didn't make the greatest starts either side, did they? But we are starting to see Hasenhüttl now put together a team. And I really like the defense he's got together as well. I think a few of those defenders, my boy Kilian Fischer from another ex-Nürnberger has played really well. I do like Favreau as well, who's looked really good. He scored the opener. I did mention him on the Monday night show, but he put in a storming performance against Hoffenheim. And the Greek as well. I don't even try to pronounce Greek names on the show anymore. But he looked really good. So he's finally found a good defense for this Wolfsburg side. And the classy Grabara, who for me is one of the best keepers in the Bundesliga as well. going forward, it's still a little bit hit and miss. It's not perfect, but they have got the quality. Amura is just an absolute he's a phenomenon really this season. I think Jonas Wind off the bench, obviously he did come out yesterday and say that he's not particularly happy with what's going on at the club. He wants to be starting games, but he lacks that consistency. That's the issue, But Maxi Arnold, the evergreen. But I found this one really hard to tip. I was thinking about this one all day, and I just don't know even now, I barely know which way to go on this one, because I still feel as though Mainz have got probably a little bit more quality in the side. I think Johnny Burkhardt is just, 9 goals for the season, is flying. Amiri is now being linked with the Premier League again. So, it's just everything's going right for Bo Henriksen's side. So... But I just feel as though the defensive solidity of Wolfsburg is going to see them through here. So I've gone for a 1-0 home win. What do you think, Peter?
Well, I had the same problem that you did. I was thinking about this one a lot, and I delved into this one in as great a detail as I could. Had you asked us 3 or 4 weeks ago that Mainz and Wolfsburg would be, coming in on these winning streaks, we would have said you're absolutely nuts. And a lot of what's going on with Wolfsburg has to do, I'm glad that you mentioned Vavro. I think the Copenhagen loanee has really come into his own. I pronounce it Kuliarakis. Could be wrong, but I'll throw that one out there. It cannot be emphasized enough that my warning that I issued to Ralf Hasenhüttl about starting Ben Dardai in midfield was entirely false. The youngest Dardai brother of the clan, of the Pal Dardai clan, has been exceptional in midfield, and one wonders if he'll get a German national team call up at some point soon, because he's going to have to eventually choose between Germany and Hungary. The resurgent Riedler Baku. Oh, I'm so glad that those words just came out of my mouth. I'm so happy to see the former Mainz man, the Mainz native, named after Karl-Heinz Riedler, resurgent. And then, of course, we have what Bo Henriksen, the magic that Bo Henriksen has been able to work with Mainz. Paul Nabel, since coming back, has been absolutely phenomenal. Kaishu Sanu and Nadia Mamiri have really solidified on that double 6 axis. I went back and forth on this one a lot, and I initially had a 3-1 Mainz win because I just thought to myself, this game has Burkhardt brace written all over it. The problem we have with Mainz, and I think it's really, really cool that Henriksen has built a back three around, of Maxim Leitch, Stefan Bell, and Danny Da Costa. I think that's really cool. I just wonder, is this really going to be able to be sustainable for the entire season? I mean, Danny Da Costa, Stefan Bell, Maxim Leitch. Once again, I see Wolfsburg at home getting past this. Of course, the atmosphere at the Volkswagen Arena is not exactly something to write home about. So we'll see if the fans even join in on the game. There was a great the Pokal spiel on Wednesday, and barely anybody was there. So yeah, the women's team often outdraws the men in Wolfsburg. But it's tough times in if you're working for Volkswagen. But in any case, I'm going to go over a 3-1 Wolfsburg win in this one, and I hope that our Sunday match reporter, Olton Corcoran, gets a good match to report on here.
Yeah, and then go on, Peter. I'll let you lead on the Baden-Württemberg derby as well, even though these clubs are not really that near each other, but still.
That's true, yeah. I mean, well, Baden-Württemberg is a big state, and Freiburg is not far from where I am. I stopped in there on my way to Zurich this past weekend. Sinsheim is a little bit north of me, and there's no real earthly reason to go to Sinsheim ever for any reason whatsoever. But I digress. I invite anyone to join into this one to see the carnage. I had a bad feeling about this Christian Ilzer appointment. And since that amazing comeback victory over Leipzig, his team has looked putrid. I think this was a horrible idea to bring in this guy as the new Kraichgauer trainer. I think he's way too big for his britches. And I had a confirmation of this. It was, when they were playing Leipzig in the league, Sky had like an inside thing in the dressing room there, and he was there firing up the team in just bad German. The guy's Austrian; he can't even speak German. I mean, okay, you can say that I'm a little heartbroken for Pellegrino Matarazzo, if you will, but I think Hoffenheim, and I've said this before on this pod, that they can factor into the relegation race. I think that's very much could be the case here. These two teams oftentimes give us pretty thrilling games. I mean, we've had a lot of, we had a 6-goal thriller a couple of years back and whatnot. I'm going to go for 3 goals in this one, and all of them are coming from Julian Schuster's Freiburg, a 3-0 victory for the Breisgauer to cap things off, and more carnage for Hoffenheim.
Yeah, this was another game that just had me completely dumbfounded as to find a result, to be honest, because both sides are so up and down at the minute. Obviously, let's not forget, Peter, that Freiburg were well beaten at Bielefeld as well the other day. I mean, to lose to a third league team is quite poor in truth, because the gap between the Bundesliga and the third league in Germany is so big. I mean, Peter, we've seen a couple of third league games, and I mean, I can't believe a team like Freiburg have lost to them, to be honest. It's a really poor result. But as you say, Hoffenheim have just basically collapsed with back-to-back, well, what was it, a 3-0 defeat in Braga, a very comfortable 2-0 defeat against Mainz, and then another hammering in Wolfsburg the other day. So, yeah, I think me and Rory initially said we were really impressed with Ilz's impact in the win over Hoffenheim, over Leipzig. But, I mean, thank you. Yeah. But, yeah, basically, what's gone on since has been an unmitigated disaster for the Sinsheim team. But Freiburg still, I feel as though they're overachieving. I really do. I look at the midfield and things, and the likes of Höfler still gets games, and they don't really have a top-level striker. They're still going with Höhler. I mean, how many years can he keep going? It seems as though he's just the evergreen. And I feel as though with the squad they've got, aside from Grifo and Doan, there's not an awful lot of quality in it, I feel. And I think they overachieve, actually, Freiburg. Really, I think what Schuster's done has been really impressive until that result against Bielefeld. But I really don't know. I think there will be goals in it because, as you say, there are good players in both teams. But I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw here. But I'll put Peter's result up considering he led on this one. So, yeah, let's quickly have a look at the table as well on this one. So, yeah, it's going to be as you were, basically, with comfortable wins for all 3 of the top 3 and Leipzig as well, staying in 4th, with potentially Freiburg and Wolfsburg making up the Europa League positions as well. So let's have a look down at the bottom, where it's probably also pretty much as you were, really. It is as you were for Bochum, who just basically don't get results, do they? It would be potentially 11 wins out of 13 with still winless. Kiel, once again, getting a little bit stranded unless they can get something out of this game against Leipzig. And then Heidenheim as well. I mean, they've been on a wretched run, haven't they? And that is unlikely, extremely unlikely to change as they make the trip to Munich. So, yeah, if you enjoyed what you saw today, then don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notifications as well so you can see all of our latest shows. Also, don't forget that we are in partnership with Bully News and also Bundesliga Boxes as well. And don't forget that we are documenting our live games and attendance at live games on Over the Bar's Instagram page at Over the Bar FB. So thank you very much to Peter for joining me again. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him again before Christmas. And we'll see, well, the show will be back again on tomorrow, actually, for the fantasy football show. So thank you very much, guys. Servus.